So taking it back to the volatility, because I believe that part of pioneering is recognizing that you are walking into uncertain terrain. Right. And one of the messages that we really launched with as a company was to plant your flag in this industry while it's stabilizing, so that your brand can grow and your business can grow while these details are being ironed out. So as you work with the company that you work with, tell me what you guys looked at internally to really make sure that you were able, and what suggestions you would make to those who are in the industry that are launching. Maybe they have already started with a more marijuana type brand. It may not be plant touching, may be plant touching. Let's first talk about the difference with that.
Okay.
The difference between a plant touching company and a non-plant touching company, and how that how that affects you from a business perspective.
So the biggest portion that affects you federally is the 280E taxation.
Okay.
So when we talk about 280E, that is determined on how you are taxed as a business. We're in the age where everyone's starting an LLC and an S Corp, and everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, but they don't understand some of the tax implications behind these businesses that they're starting.
Yeah.
So when you're in a plant-facing company, you are subject to 280E, which means you are not able to deduct any of your business expenses. The only expenses you're able to deduct are what we call COGS, which are cost of goods sold, which is materials or anything that directly is part of the cost of what you're selling. Right. Anything else cannot be written off. So talking
marketing
about,
can't be written off.
We're talking
advertising
about rent.
Can't be written off.
No.
Rent can't be written off.
None of these items. And labor cannot be written off unless it's administrative, unless they're doing payroll, unless they're doing administrative duty and they're not plant touching at all. Those are the only employees that can be written off. So you're paying a really higher tax rate because we know in America we have an escalating tax rate depending on how much money you make.
Right.
So the more you have in gross receipts, it's almost counterproductive in that industry to make more because you're taxed more.
Wow.
So the more you make, the more they tax. When you're in a non-plant facing business or a business like yours that is part of what we call the agricultural segment of the country, it almost opens up more write-offs for you to be able to explore. Because like we discussed, our country of America was built on agriculture, right? So that was our biggest trade. That was our biggest asset here in this country. So we really try to protect our agricultural and our farmers and make sure that that is still something that is part of our footprint here. Yeah. So I really, like you say, I encourage people to go that route because we do see a lot of the great effects of CBD as well. We know that our nervous system and we need CBD to balance it out, right? Yeah. It's a part of our system that we already create. So we can see some of the same benefits to CBD that we do THC. Yeah. And in its expanding market. As we said, I believe that it will be introduced in part of our pharmaceuticals.
Absolutely.
Very, very soon, as we get this
patents are already in place from the federal government and some big pharma industries. Yeah. And I just want to echo that point that, starting with the hemp-derived CBD business, if you're interested in the cannabis industry, this is what I preached from the first day that I launched WH Farms. And we started, our MVP was a kit that combined education and extract to help people during the pandemic infuse hair products, beauty products, food products with CBD and be able to offer additional benefit, charge additional premium so that they can make revenue in the pandemic because everything was shut down. And everyone would say like, well, why wouldn't I start a marijuana company? Because there is a saying that you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
But in this space, you don't want to find out either, right? Like you just do not want to find out. And I think that what you just said was super wise. Let's go into banking because we actually, even as a hemp-derived CBD company, and we've worked with banks that are agriculturally focused, but because we're cannabis or marijuana adjacent, we still are a lot of times scrutinized. I mean, I would never forget, we had placed a 5-figure check into a bank account and we were, just setting it aside as reserves because it was a part of a grant fund that we received and they wanted it to be segregated from the operating account. And within like 2 weeks, the bank called and said, hey, can you come pick up a check? Yeah. And I'm like, pick up a check for what? And I was like, well, we have to close your account because as we've looked at your website and we see your gummies that are non-THC. Right. Broad spectrum CBD gummies, they said that they were they weren't interested in being exposed to the risk because bank institutions get to make a decision because there isn't a federal regulation,
Right.
Whether or not they want to be exposed to the risk in this industry. So what have you seen as an accountant in this space, and what are some of the challenges that people have had with banks, and what recommendations would you offer, clients as it relates to like working with banks?
Well, back in 2006, they're not as profound as they are now, where they return your check and call you and come and pick it up. That's when you would log into your bank and they would say, you're under investigation. And we're going to hold the funds until we figure out what's going on and how close you are to a THC or a CBD company.
Square. That's a Square thing today.
Right. So I've seen that not only with merchant processors, but with banks holding funds. So it was just a very scary thing to put money in the bank and not use it right away. I mean, we would almost put money in the bank just to wire it to a vendor to pay an invoice the same day, because you wouldn't want money sitting, because you would never know
You
what
would be
risk you were
subjected to
taking.
investigation. Absolutely.
Right. And